All right, guys, welcome back to Left Seat, Right Seat. Today we're here with Jack. He's a prior Navy guy, and now he is a psychological social worker. So for LA County. So, Jack, just go ahead, tell us, what you're about, what you did once you got out, and how you came to this job that you have right now. Yeah.
Sure. My name is Jack Hernandez. I currently work for the LA County Public Defender's Office as a psychiatric social worker. I think it's important to note that before I got in the military, I was going to college. I had some junior college credit. And I think that this later, as we continue the conversation, I think that's important because that kind of helped me at least try to give me some type of direction after I left, as I transitioned out.
Mm-hmm.
But just to begin, as far as in the military, I was in between 94 and 2001. As far as my end of my 8-year enlistment, I did do 4 years active duty. I did a couple of years of active reserve time out of San Diego, California.
Right.
In the Navy, I was a damage controlman. I was an E5. Pretty much got promoted pretty quickly while I was in. Got a chance to do both dual coasts. I was on the East Coast and on the West Coast.
Yeah, nice.
First one was obviously did the Med, and then we came back to the West Coast, which is more of the Middle East. And a lot of good training there. But once I transitioned out, I think there was at the time we had something was called TAPTR, Transitional Assistance Program.
Right.
You were entitled to go to, or you have to run a petition or a CHIT, request permission to go to that program within the last, I think, 90 days of our enlistment.
Mm-hmm.
But some of it was kind of complex because if you're out on the deployment, it'd be challenging, right?
Right.
So if you knew you were transitioning out, let's just say 9 months before your end of your enlistment, but you're on a 6-month med cruise, well, that could be kind of conflicting, right? Sometimes they may request that you can request to come back to stateside to participate in the transitional assistance program, or you may have, at the time, you may have missed it altogether. So those are some of the challenges that I encountered during that time frame. Obviously, things have changed. Right. But just wanted just to kind of put a scope of what my reality was like and what access we may have had during my enlistment and my transition.
Yeah.
So we have to, kind of go through some hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did participate in it. I think it's, I thought it was going to be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I figured, okay, that, going through this and maybe employment, transition, helping me get into schools, doing all that process. But it was different. It wasn't what I put it back. I expected a lot more, considering I come from a very structured environment of the military.
Right.
So you're pretty much going to walk the footsteps that you're told to walk, and this is what's going to be expected. But come to find out, and when you go to the transitional assistance program, it was more like a time where it was not structured.
Mm-hmm.
The conversations or the resources that were available was, generalized versus specifically directed, so that I can walk in a path where I know I'm going to where my records are, how my records will transition into the VA, or how my all my records or my experience is going to transition to the work life.
Yeah.
It's a clear opportunity that transitional assistance programs could have actually, it could have been enhanced a lot more, because I know things are different now, but I'm sharing my reality at the time.
Right.
And since I was a firefighter in the military, I pretty much knew that was probably the path that I wanted to take.
Mm-hmm.
However, although I had the experience, one of the things that I quickly found out as I transitioned, when you look at the job description and the job requirements or the experience required in addition to just on the job, now I saw on the application bachelor's degree required, master's degree required. And that kind of took me aback. I said, oh my God,
Right.
what am I doing? I don't have that. I did have education prior to joining the military, like an associate arts degree.
Right.
And it had to be more specific towards that field. But I quickly ran into a brick wall in that respect. But, oh my God, if I want to go work for the county, and the management position that I had in the military, wow, that didn't transition very well for me either.
Mm-hmm.
As an E5, we're making some pretty good money where we can have rent out a place, have our own home, with all of the benefits. Well, transitioning back into the civilian life and having to start from rock bottom is not going to allow me the opportunity to go and have my own home and pay all my bills that I'm going to have to be responsible for. That was a wake-up call.
Right.
And I look back on it and I was like, oh my God, how did I fall back so far? Why did I pitfall so hard in establishing that foundation when I transitioned out?
Yeah.
I think one thing is, if I would have gone back home, it would have probably been easier, right? Because I would, again, I think my shelter and those types of things would have been established because of my family, right? But I didn't.
Right.
I pretty much stayed in San Diego as I transitioned out, because they had the school that I wanted to go to and study occupational therapy, and I had already applied for the program, but I needed to complete a lot of prerequisites that I was unable to take while I was in service.
Right.
That was a challenge. I had to move into a garage. I lived in a garage for about 4 years.
Right.
While I was going back to school to get some credits. And I think the only reason I went back to school is because prior to the military, that's what I knew how to do. I knew that to go back to school. What I was exposed to prior to the service, I could re-explore again in this path to try and get all these certifications that are required to go into a specific field that's going to pay good money or a decent amount of money so I can make a living.
Right.
Age, right? But unfortunately, I was able to go to school. I was able to utilize my GI Bill to cover some of those expenses.
Nice.
Budgeting it, and I had to live in a garage.
Right.
And I pretty much sheltered with a local family that I knew from the military.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, I pretty much had to struggle with. I had to start from rock bottom. I was fortunate enough to kind of see that there was benefits while I was going to school to take a job at the VA. Study, and that was only allowed to me because I was receiving federal aid, and I can also work as a work study student through the VA as an occupational therapy aid.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm also getting experience there, but it was, at the time, $10 an hour, fortunately, to go too far living in San Diego or in a big city.
All right.
Also, it's a little bit more expensive than if I live in another field. I did that before.
Right.
Probably in a metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, I didn't get that in the TAP class. I wasn't made aware of certain things that I can also apply for with the VA with this, because I did incur some injuries while I was in service. But at the time when you transition, you feel invincible, and you don't want. We have a lot of pride. You don't want to be stigmatized with any type of mental health. And me, my culturally, I mean, I didn't even want to. We didn't even receive prescription or medicines or pain pills. It's just that wasn't my cultural lifestyle.
Yeah.
Traditional memory. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Say home remedies per se
Uh,
for our needs or health. So that was, again, that was another challenge that I had to kind of embrace and navigate the VA. One thing that did help me navigate the VA was working for the VA while I was going to school.
right.
Having other service members work alongside me that were also going through the same experience, so that peer association was very helpful. Had I not had that, it would have maybe taken me a lot longer, which I still think it took me a long time to seek assistance through the VA.
Right.
I think the transitional assistance program could have helped me a little bit better if it was more structured. We had companies from the local area come in and offer how to go about and getting employment with their agencies. Like over in San Diego, there's a lot of biotech companies and technology companies out there that could have been invited to the TAP program.
Right.
Versus just having Border Patrol. I didn't want to go into Border Patrol law enforcement. I don't do that. I didn't want to do sheriff. And I'm a truck driver.
Right.
It just didn't meet my needs, especially when we're gone for so long. And then we come back, life changes, life moves on without you. When we come back to the States, there's new technology, new innovation. And if I feel that in the military, that training didn't grow as it was happening in civilian life.
Right.
And we had like AT&T or just conglomerate companies come in and offer and solicit the type of jobs they had, although we didn't meet their criteria of education, would they embrace someone that doesn't have certifications, that didn't carry over from military employment or trainings into civilian life?
Right.
The TAP class was limited in that. How do you transition that? And although now I think it's different, clearly, which is a great thing. I'm glad that they did that. Now they transition all the work experience that we have into where you can go and apply for specific jobs because you have this specific training. I still think needs to be a streamline of carryover with certifications that are required in civilian employment, that we gain that specific certification while we're in the military, and that way we make a seamless transition into these fields, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's obviously if you're an air traffic controller, that pretty much streamlines into air traffic control employment outside the military.
Right.
How do we, someone that is a first responder or is out in the field in combat, how do you transition that experience in civilian life?
Right.
They're at the front lines, but they do have leadership skills that we gain and develop, and planning and that type of stuff. But we're not given certifications for that, are we? That's just something.
Right.
So,
very true.
Streamlining has to be done in the careers that we have in the military that can transition back into civilian. I think that's a big thing that I would like to address to help us not fall into the problem that I encountered, which was going into whatever job I was able to get to, which was retail. I mean, it's the most immediate job that was available to me, but starting at the lower wages, entry-level wages,
right,
made it very difficult for me to have a sustainable living wage.
Right.
As I continued on with education and completed my program of occupational therapy assistant. one of the local schools in San Diego, I was able to now transition into a field that paid a sustainable living wage.
Mm-hmm.
Not having to work 2, 3 jobs. I was working at the VA and the retail when I got out of the military and still going to school.
Wow, yeah.
So that made it very hard for me. And now, considering it, I don't have to have 2 jobs, but one job could keep me afloat moving forward to have a single wage.
Mm-hmm.
So that eventually was really good. I was able to transition out and leave the garage.
Right.
Work in adult day care centers, helping the elder population.
Nice.
Unfortunately, when I graduated college, or with my associate's degree in occupational therapy, I was getting promoted through my part-time job at a local electronics store. And in that promotion, obviously, I was able to now, I had to make a decision. Do I start at this prevailing wage in occupational therapy, or do I just keep stay in the field that I've already been promoted in, now making a really good wage, and I'm able to at least provide shelter and some transportation for myself, and move forward with an upward mobility. So I eventually wound up staying in the job that I was at.
Mm-hmm.
I went into management.
Nice.
During that time, I was in school and pretty much got promoted. And at that point, I just stayed in management, and I worked there for a good, maybe 14 years or so at that company because it was growing.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to gain a lot more leadership experience and methods and approaches and proper skills to lead civilians.
Right.
Got into that, and as I got into that retail, let me tell you something. A lot of problems.
Yeah.
So I wasn't getting promoted. I wasn't. Clearly it was apparent that I was a different type of. I had a different type of work ethic, a more assertive work ethic, more direct work ethic. Again, that was clearly from the military's experience. And then when I went into civilian life trying to work with others, and I saw the Gen Y population and their work ethic was completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So my approach was, you say, was not welcomed.
Yes.
So, but I was blessed at the fact that they did give me some training, and I had some, along the way, there were some managers that were able to share with me, hey, listen, man, you're not in the military anymore. There's a different approach we have to take with Generation Y or all of these millennials. And that in itself is another comprehensive cultural opportunity to learn. But that also takes time if we don't do some self-reflection, or if you don't have a mentor directing you saying, hey, man, this is the way we do things now in our country, because while you were gone, there's transformation.
Yeah.
That was in itself as well. That was very difficult for me. And I didn't, at that point, I think there were some red flags there that I should have addressed. But again, I just try to learn it and navigate on my own and try and accept feedback, even though it was difficult at times and it rubbed me the wrong way at times. Some relationships were broken because I just wasn't able to embrace that.
Yeah.
For several years, and it held me back. So that in itself is another challenge.
Yeah.
Reintegrating into society that is different. There's different ways you can look at it, whether it's generational, whether it's approaches in how to get things done. In the military, there's definitely a specific way we do things that is not embraced in civilian life.
That's true, yeah. You can't yell at people to get things done.
Yeah. Or the tone that you use, it might not even be that you're yelling, but you have an assertive tone,
Right.
just giving direction, but it rubs some people the wrong way. Or some people may be offended. Not only
Right.
it could be just differences, different,
Yeah.
generation. Had I gotten some training or some awareness from prior to me leaving, something that didn't happen in TAP, maybe I would have, maybe I would have stayed in. I don't know.
Right.
They just told me, hey man, when you get out there, be kind, have some compassion. What is that? Well, what is compassion? What is empathy? And what?
Right.
I think had they given me some type of comprehensive awareness around social behaviors, it could have benefited me so much more. That could have helped me advance quicker with minimal obstacles.
Yeah.
I hope that if nothing else we get from this, as I'm thinking about it, that we gain this awareness to the Department of Defense that a curriculum is developed to help us have that awareness of compassion, understanding, being empathetic, being more supportive versus a reporter and director of things. I worked in the industry for a good amount of years, and when my second child was born, I realized I needed some help. So it took me, it took me, he was born in 2013, 12 years to realize that I needed to stop. That I needed to stop and get myself checked, man.
Right.
I don't think about I'm good, but on my own thought process, there was something going on. So I dropped everything, cold turkey. My wife and my two children, we decided to move closer to family, and I took that time to do some self-reflection, to go to the VA, which I figured maybe they know what's going on. Maybe they can help me, they can guide me to where I need to go, because I didn't know where else to go.
Right.
I've never gone to any kind of mental health services. I've never, just, obviously physicals and things like that, but I didn't know. But I was going through a hard time finding the joy of life, and I was challenged and I was struggling. I was struggling so much.
Yeah.
Emotionally, thought process, just a lot of things going on.
Was that just dealing with not being in, or what was it? Just why were you like struggling so hard?
I think a lot of I started experiencing a lot of physical pain due to my injuries that I incurred while I was in service. One.
Oh, yeah.
Two is see, what is my identity? I didn't know what my identity was. Even though I fooled and it seemed like I was just kind of fooling myself and just navigating life, out of body type experience. I hate to say it. I was disassociated, the best word I can say.
Right.
But not being really true to myself. No joy. It's just flatness. So obviously some depression, some trauma that I was unresolved trauma due to my service.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't know what all these anxieties were and why I would get all confused or feel these symptoms of stress.
Yeah.
A lot of things just challenge me. An inability to have positive relationships with friends and family, where I wasn't always nervous or just hyper aware. I had this hypervigilance that I was experiencing. Poor sleep.
Right.
Eventually, I started, and I wasn't a kid that used any kind of substance throughout my life. I was an athlete. I always took care of my body, even while I was in service. Didn't drink, but that became a personal battle that I started to kind of I used that to self-medicate. That was wrong. I didn't even pick it up right away. But as time went on, I realized that I was trying to find excuses to have access to it. You know?
Right, right.
Because I come from the right type of family that you just don't do that. So that was another red flag, right?
Yeah.
So those were some challenges that I endured, man. When I came back and to where I grew up, I think it was necessary for me to do that self-reflection and go out and get some help. And to muster the courage to share that with my wife and another pivotal moment.
Right.
Ladies, and I'm sure you know, most military service members know, we don't like to share vulnerabilities. But we don't know how. And we've got to these missions, we feel like we're invincible. We don't need no help. We'll figure it out. Unfortunately, I came to realization I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I shouldn't have done. I felt that they were unhealthy for my body, for my mind, and my growth, and having a positive relationship with children, with my kids, having that joy and experiencing joy with my kids, you know, to be elated. But I wasn't having it, and that hit me hard.
Yeah.
So for the next couple of years, went back to the VA. I was in there all the time. I stopped working. I took a disability for about a year. Up until the point where someone at the VA finally said something to me, and after I shared my story, and she says, "You know what? It's not your fault." And that hit me hard again. Another pivotal moment where somebody finally validated what I said, validated my experience, the trauma. And then I started, okay, so she's showing me some empathy. At the time I couldn't even do that. But just the fact that she said it wasn't her fault. She's right. And that's a war or difficult situations that we as service members are exposed to. That civilian members, a lot of civilian people are not.
Right.
It's unfortunate to say now, I mean, they're pretty prevalent and frequent in society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that in itself, that helped me want to at least consider accepting help. And then they started pushing all these prescription drugs on me. And that was in itself was very hard for me to embrace. But, you know, I started at least acknowledging what the doctors were saying. And also they placed me in some groups that I had no idea what the hell was going on. You know, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive processing therapy, all these things that I had, they were way over my head. I couldn't even concentrate and function. I got to a point where it was very hard for me to verbalize sentences in a clear way.
Yeah.
I completed them, got nothing out. My wife had been exposed to some equine therapy or conversations about what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 16 years later though. And I have all this shit that I haven't even processed. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
And so there was a flyer called for Blue Star Ranch, equine therapy, military service members welcome. They're free for military.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives me the flyer and she sees out in the community, and I was reluctant to call. I have no idea what equine is, number one, and I have no idea who these people are, number two. I had a lot of trust issues, man. Put it that way.
Right.
So when I called, and the individual that answered was a prior service member who was in the Marines, and he was sharing with me his story and what his exposures were, and I could tell that he had problems communicating over the phone, which is what symptoms that I had. So, oh my God. And he's trying to encourage me to be a part of it because although he still has opportunities in development, and just understanding triggers and what are some copings. He was able to say to me that he's completed the program and he got something out of it.
Right.
What it is for people, it's different for everybody. So had it not been him, had it been someone else, I probably wouldn't have acknowledged it, probably never have gone. But I went and I wound up completing a 16-week program. It's typically like 12 weeks, but for me it was 16 weeks. And at the end of it, I gained some clarity, I gained some perspective of who I am now as a civilian, of my identity as a father, as a parent, as a everyday person in the civilian world. That really gave me perspective. That my whatever traumas or exposures I had won't define me, or I was able to manage it a little bit better, as far as when I get triggered and how it makes me respond and react.
Right.
Clearly, one of the best. Thank God that I attended this called Blue Star Ranch program. I was there for 3.5 therapy. And let me tell you, man, it just gave me so much perspective. It was more about a somatic approach of understanding what was happening as I shared my story, and where I got some validation from caregivers that are trained, certified, and trained in this type of therapy.
All right. And how can people find like the therapy? Like, is it easy to find online or?
It is easy, but there's some confusion. Remember, equine therapy, there has to be, you have to look for the IGALA logo. IGALA is the governing body that trains, that provides the training to therapists. And once they are certified, they are able to administer this type of treatment with an animal, with a horse.
Gotcha.
And the animal is part of the treatment
the process. Yeah.
The process of you exploring whatever traumas or unresolved traumas you may have. Then there's some other agencies that do equine therapy, but it's more of a caregiver, or you're going over there, you're a caretaker, you're cleaning up, you're managing stables, and that's I want to make it very clear that that's not what equine therapy is. Okay? So equine therapy is when you have a certified therapist that is IGALA certified, and then there's a caregiver of the horse. They're both involved in the treatment, and it's weekly programs up until 16 weeks, or it may vary for different.
Right, gotcha. Cool.
Right, but in that process, there's also a moment in time where you can choose to have a family member participate in your session, and that was another great thing, because there's some things that I did not think and process and convey and share. Having them there and witness what's happening was a way for me to communicate what I was unable to communicate verbally at that. Again, there's different benefits with that. So for me, that's what gave me the awakening, and I gained some clarity and being able to manage my symptoms. That I decided to go back to the VA and now participate in their cognitive behavior, that top-down approach, and I was able to understand that a little bit better the second time around.
Gotcha. That's pretty good.
Yeah, man. So I went that awareness.
Nice. And then when you do that, it's like, are you like riding the horse, or are you just like walking beside it? Like,
I'm glad you asked. So equine therapy, you're doing different tasks. It's non-riding, and you're doing different tasks in like a corral. Those tasks will vary.
Okay.
How do you facilitator? Some of them are creating an environment of where you were, what your life was like prior to service, or things of joy, and then you create a map or you create an activity. And as you're doing it, and then the facilitator is inquiring what you're doing, they observe the horse. They observe the animal, and the animal is exhibiting behaviors.
Gotcha.
Crazy as it sounds, they observe the animal as you share, and they're able to provide that interpretation. Sometimes the horse will provide some support, other times he won't. Other times he'll walk away. And then at certain points in time, you will have to they ask you to guide the horse to where you want. Well, how do you guide a 1,000-pound animal?
You're right.
Right? You're not taught. But it's funny. It's very humbling. I can tell you that, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very inspiring in the way that the relationship that you build with the animal, and that the ability to, if you develop a good rapport with them, then that pretty much transcends and carries over to how you relate. And I was
Oh,
really struggling with that episode.
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I knew there was like therapy with animals, or like you're around them and stuff. Like I know there's one with like puppies and dogs and cats, but where they're just like around. And then I knew there was another one where you go out on horse rides and like you talk about your story or whatever, or just the horse ride is like part of the therapy itself. So that's what I was wondering if that was kind of where like what you kind of did as well. And then so I was wondering because I mean you said you'd moved back home, so you're around what LA area then, and I was just wondering like at that time, 2011, 2013, I'm thinking about where a farm would be, relatively close to like downtown LA, and I don't think there would be one close, but there are some equestrian centers here, so yeah.
Yeah, Equine is a great. They have some up in the valley, north of the valley.
Okay, great.
There are actually some in the valley and north of the valley, and whenever there's rural, typically you'll find some. I know that there's some in Arizona and Colorado that I've looked at for juveniles. I think there's options for the field that I'm working in now. It's a approach as well in combination with cognitively a cognitive approach kind of meshed into one, especially if someone at the time cannot convey or organize their thoughts and speak clearly of what's happening. It's a really great interpretation of how the animal can provide support or comfort. Much like these, to your point, when you see at the VA, they come in and they bring dogs so that you can show some your ability to show some compassion and some care. The dogs do reciprocate that as well.
Right.
Similar to that, however, this is more in depth of self-exploration.
Gotcha.
For me, it gave me a lot of clarity, and I'm blessed with the fact that the other service member that encouraged me to participate. To this day, I'm always inquiring about them. I still volunteer with that program because they do such good work for service members. It's free for service members. We just show the team we do an intake with the specialists to make sure they're vetted.
Okay.
I'm blessed, and to this day, and moving forward to the end of my days, I will always encourage service members that are physicians that have some PTSD or depression or confusion or state of mind or psychosis, whatever it is that they're dealing with. Equine therapy should be one of the top priorities to engage in.
And was there like a specific company that you went to? Since I mean, I'm sure not every company has veterans benefits or whatever. So I mean, if there's a specific company that the one that you went to, you said it's free for veterans. So is that like the name of that one? And are they just in LA or California? Are they like national or whatnot?
I'm glad you asked. It's Blue Star Ranch is the name of the organization. It's
Blue Star Ranch.
Blue Star Ranch is out of Valencia.
Okay, cool.
And she is a nonprofit.
Okay.
The way she funds the ranch is by grants, government grants, and she's always doing everything she can to do fundraisers. Matter of fact, we just did a fundraiser last Friday with the Valencia Town Center, and some veterans and I were able to support the Wolf Creek. It's called Wolf Creek Brewery. They were providing the drinks for this jazz event, and we were the waiters. And all of the tips that were provided for us were for the ranch.
Oh, nice.
We were able to fundraise over close to $400.
Oh, nice.
Just for our ranch and helping service members as they go into the program and gain more awareness. But Blue Star Ranch is a really good organization. anyone here living in California. It would be great if there's similar ones throughout the nation. I hope there are, but it's an unserved, underserved service that I think benefit most service members, especially the ones that have been exposed to traumatic brain or have been exposed to wars and come back with some comfort. But that's
Right.
who it is, and there's always a certified therapist working with Nancy and caretaker. Usually you'll have your own horse, you'll work with that same horse throughout the entire sessions.
Oh, okay. Great. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, and one other thing, after I completed my program, whenever I came back to the VA to participate in these other groups that I didn't understand at the time, I was able to connect with some members, and then they asked me, well, how were you able to go back to school? And let me tell you something, man. Giving some perspective, and I started realizing I needed help everywhere I went. So I said, if I was going to go back to school, I'm going to ask for help.
Right.
And I started having the courage to ask for help. To help. And I recruited one member to participate, and he was having a hard time. He was having, negative thoughts and didn't have a purpose. And I guided him to participate, and he accepted. He went to the program. He got some perspective of who he is. He has a family. He was struggling with employment. After completing the program, I think soon after, maybe within a couple of months, he wound up getting a really good job as in the air conditioning field, I believe it was. And stable, supportive of the program. And every year, what we do is we look for a member. We're trying to do it more quarterly now, but we look for a member that can be supported. And if he completes the program, kind of recognize him and working with the Veterans of Foreign Wars to sponsor them every year, sponsor them during the holiday season. And let me tell you something: there's some civilians out here, man, that they might have not served in the war, but they provide some funding to help a struggling service member in need during the holiday season. And that happened for me and for my friend. And we also, last year, it was a female that was a recipient of the recognition. Moving forward as best we can. More to come on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I'm always like thinking of, all the like the Wounded Warriors and all that, all those other organizations that like help. And a lot of them are, you think like a lot of them are like strictly just for, these kind of veterans that are wounded or hurt, right? And it's kind of like hard for other veterans to be like, well, I'm not missing a leg, so I don't need help, right? Or whatever. Not necessarily you have to be missing a leg, but whatever. I'm not a wounded warrior. I'm not that kind of. I didn't have any of those situations happen to me. I wasn't hit by IEDs or whatever it might be, shot. So I don't. I'm staying away from that kind of help so that these other guys can get it. And I think, like you were saying with Blue Star Ranch, like I feel like the guys that weren't injured but still got messed up, whether it's mentally or whatever, they can get a little bit of healing out of that, and a little bit of help, and it'd be great, maybe we could spread the word a little bit more, especially I don't know I will look into it after this and see if it's like there are other like national ones that that veterans could work at. But I know for definitely if there's guys in LA area or even Ventura, Santa Barbara, that area, that lower California area, that would be easy to get to in Ventura, so I think that could really help guys that do like you said, have that pride that I don't need help, I'm good, I could deal with it, right? And it's not
this is something that families can feel in on. You just said it again. I'm good. I said it. I'm good, right?
Right.
When you hear a veteran and somebody say that, man, you know something's up.
Right.
Right there, that's a red flag. I'm good. I'm good. There's something up. There's something disconnecting there because
Yeah.
you're right. You got these invisible wounds that we don't know how to understand. I mean,
Right.
in the population that I work with now, they do cut. They're cutting. They're cutting because they can't understand what these invisible wounds are in the brain. And
Right.
it's a brain. Just try to. It's a brain injury.
Right.
Look at it. It's a brain injury. Some brains actually become atrophied. Others are, dealing with this trauma, or they suppress it, and we go to alternative means of therapy, which is substance use or aggressive behavior, different things, and isolation. There's so
Right.
much that we can fall into, and which we do fall into. And how do you remedy that? At a certain point in time, hopefully, we have an epiphany and say, you know what, this I'm good is relative, and it's more like I'm looking for something that's going to help me get through.
Right. Right.
And I think that journey of exploration is the opportunity where if they connect with a service member and a service member says, "Hey, if he's saying I'm good, let me just do a double check here."
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that too. 'Cause I know I was just having a conversation with my old Muay Thai instructor my old crew, and we were just talking about it, and he's like, "So, what are the statistics of people that are coming out or coming back from like overseas and whatever with like PTS and other kinds of traumas?" And I was like, "Well, honestly, it's pretty much 100%. you know, it affects people differently, different people differently, right? The same people could be on the same mission, be affected differently. Some could be like torn up from that mission, and some could walk away like there's still like something in the background, but they're willing to function, right? So it's that distinction that I think as we're coming to realize now, it's not just the guys that are coming back like trying to injure themselves or just always angry or whatever. It's not those guys that are the only ones that are messed up, right? Like everybody's messed up, right? And everybody's dealing with their own thing in their own way. And I feel like if there's any kind of therapy or just any kind of like thing to just help them out, like it doesn't have to be therapy or whatnot, right? It could be something else, right? Some guys work their own stuff out in their head by like climbing a mountain, like other guys work on cars, or whatever it is, but as they're doing that, they're working the other functions out, like the things that are messing with them out, right? Not everybody needs a group thing, and some people will just hate group things, right? So, and I'm guessing, like, from what you sounded like, that was more of an individual kind of therapy. I want to say therapy. I don't know if it was like how it went down. You did say there's a therapist there, or counselor, whichever it may be. But I want to say that they were like going back into your childhood kind of therapy, right? It's like a different kind of thing, right? So, and that sounded more individual, so I think that might help out other vets or other just individuals at all. They don't have to be veterans, but just people who just like hate the group thing and like refuse to do the group thing, and then could just go out here and do that and one-on-one. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna tell a horse which horse is gonna tell your secret, right?
Right.
Right? Yeah. Maybe all the other horses in the stable are gonna be looking at you funny next week, but who knows, right? Like, right? So I think that to me that's like a really cool thing. I've known of similar types of therapy, like I said, but I've never heard of that one per se. And the fact that it's like free for veterans is even better, So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I think, um, what you said, where it was like trauma is like a brain injury, like that kind of like resonated with me a little bit, and I was like, okay. And even though I've heard that many a times, and it's been said, like the thinking about it in the way of like, because I think at the time you said it, I was saying like wounded warriors and all that stuff. So it is a wound, right? But it's just one you can't see, right? And that's one you were saying earlier, right? It's like a wound on the brain, right? So, that's kind of cool. Well, not that it is cool, but it's a cool way to think of it, right? Like,
So when you injure your foot, where you go? You're gonna go to the doctor, or if you break your leg, you're gonna go to a specialist, right? That's gonna cast you up, or you're gonna, like you said, if you have a cancer, you're gonna go to a cancer specialist, right?
right.
Or if you have a brain embolism or something, you're gonna go to a brain specialist, right?
Right.
Well, that's the same thing. Is we have to see mental health as that. Going to go see a specialist to help us reprocess. And the great thing about the brain is that, when I was a child, there was always, oh, well, once you smoke weed or you do all these drugs, or that they're going to destroy your brain cells or something. Well, I'm going to find out over at Walter Reed at the the National Institute of National Intrepid Center of Excellence. They've done research where the brain is able to regenerate and grow neuroplasticity to help our brains reprocess certain activities or experiences or traumas exposed to, so that we can expand our resiliency again.
Right.
When we get triggered, we're just way off and we're always triggered all the time. Well, giving us that ability to establish our ground and maintain our resiliency and expand the resiliency that we have, not just always in an altered state of mind, or we're always depressed, or we're just over exuberated and triggered all the time. That's something that they've done, and they've done a lot of different interventions that are more helpful. That for me, I would seek out, like Tai Chi, yoga. These are called complementary alternative modalities that if you don't want to go to a psychiatrist, well, consider these options as an initial foundation to establish and be comfortable with an activity based treatment to help you explore the challenges that you may still have, and then you kind of be directed towards a specialist, a brain specialist, or a psychiatrist, or a therapist that is more to your liking. Everybody's going to be different. And we all have adverse childhood traumas, and even that alone, that hasn't been explored, is something that is important for you to learn about, because it can affect your longevity.
Right.
At the Center of Excellence, they also have a lot of funding where they work with service members that have transitioned back with missing limbs. They've been exposed to explosive ordinances, right? They've been traumatized, moral guilt. They have some guilt.
Right.
They work with them with art therapy. They use different types of brain spotting. They use so many different adverse treatments or brain fitness to help them process and gain some better perspective on who they are now. Because we don't want to be defined as someone, oh, well, he's missing a limb. That person doesn't want to be defined that way. He doesn't want help. He wants to be able to do things on it. He or she wants to be able to do things on their own independently. Be okay with it as well, and to be okay also with accepting some help in the initial process of learning who you are now. I think that was learning who my identity was. I was in this flux of military veteran and still with that behavior, and I was lost, man. And I think I'm blessed at the fact that some spiritual guidance also kind of came back to me, and I was able to practice that. That kind of helped me through. So different things for different folks. Like you said, some people can just take a walk and or engage in peer-to-peer social connection to
Yeah.
share. But at certain times, you're also going to have to gain the perspective to have innovation in your life and really focus on you. And I think
Right.
that's the opportunities we have as service members.
Yeah.
We have to kind of overcome.
Right. Yeah, and I think coming back to that conversation when I was talking to my crew, we're like, he's like, because he asked me, he's like, you didn't have any issues, right? And I was like, well, when I first came out, I didn't think I did, right? Um, but for some reason, when I saw a knee injury, it didn't matter how slight the knee injury, like I was like cringing. I was like, oh, I'd flinch. It definitely like make me flinch, and like, well, I mean, I would continue on though, right? But prior to going to Iraq, like, well, I was in a medevac unit, so I saw a lot of stuff, right? Like, I was just to say, let's leave it at that. I saw a lot of stuff, gore and everything else, and I saw that prior to going, and I saw it while I was there, and it wasn't until after I came back that when I saw a knee injury, like I felt queasy about it, right? And it was weird. It was like it was like one of those missions, and it just happened to be like how the things happened on this mission that got stuck in my head, and now every time I see a knee injury or somebody just like you're walking in like you bend your knee backwards a little bit, and I see even if I see that I'm like whoa and I know exactly why I have that, and I know where it came from, but it still doesn't stop me from being like, oh, Jesus, kind of, I don't want to mess with that anymore, and like without going into detail um, about it, like it's just it was it was a pretty crazy mission, and it was I think for me it was the first guy that I picked up that was like DOA, right? It's just like dead on arrival, and there's nothing we could do about it. And I think that's why it stuck with me. And even though I know where it is and where the cringe comes from, it still happens, and I can't fight it. But it's just like it's a momentary moment of hesitation, like a split second, like all right, and then it's just back to a normal day, right? But but that took a while in me figuring it out, and it wasn't really until I was in college and I took my one semester of psych classes, right? Which makes me an expert on these things, right? I don't need to sleep in a Holiday Inn. And we were talking about traumas and everything like that, that it kind of snapped for me that like, oh, that's where that came from. All right. And for me, it's something I can live with and deal with. I'm not going to go angry and, yell at people when I see a knee injury, but it's the one thing that makes me like hesitate. Like, I used to be afraid of heights prior to going in because, funny story, we're on the like 48th or 47th floor of my aunt's apartment in New York when we were kids, and we were like visiting one of the summers, and we're like hanging over the edge, and I'm like still short, so I can't like reach all the way over. So you get up and you're like you got like your ribs right on the edge, but your feet aren't touching, and we're like driving like I don't know, we were just like spitting off the edge, trying to see like how long it takes for the spit to hit the floor or whatever, And my brother comes up behind me, he's all like, "Don't fall," and does that trick, and like had a fear of heights ever since then, But then went into the Army, and you're flying in Black Hawk, and you're dangling out this Black Hawk at like umpteen feet, a couple thousand feet sometimes, and so I still have the fear of heights, but like it doesn't bother me at all. I don't even hesitate for it. But a knee injury, boom! I get 1 second of hesitation, and I'm like, okay, I'm back. So, so I feel like like even if you're to bring it back to what my point of this is, even if you don't have a like super traumatic injury or something crazy happened, I think I would like to say pretty much almost everybody walks away with some kind of trauma from something, even maybe if you even didn't go overseas and like you never got yelled at when you were at the house, and then all of a sudden you're in basic or boot or whatever it is, and you're getting yelled at for the next 6 years of your life, right? That might be a little traumatic for some people, right? Something you might have to deal with. I'm just saying, I got yelled at a lot as a kid, whether it was my fault or not. But
we can look at alone just the gas chamber exposure that we go through. I mean, that alone, man, that's
right.
And then you think they're just gonna hold you there for a couple of seconds, and it don't turn out to be a couple of seconds. Let me tell you.
Right.
You're coughing up and spitting up your eyeballs. I mean, that's some
right.
Oh,
yeah.
I guess I need to become good with that, huh?
Right, and they always put that tree right outside the door for people to run right into. It's like every basic. Yeah, no, my drill sergeant got mad at me. He's like, why aren't you breathing? I was like, I am breathing, drill sergeant. He's like, what's not happening to you? I was like, I don't know, drill sergeant. Maybe I just ate too much curry as a kid growing up. I don't know. It's not bothering me. But yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, no, exactly though, right? Like you have those things, right? Like the gas chamber, definitely a traumatic issue for a lot of people. Wasn't really for me, except for I got yelled at a little bit more. But yeah, I think that was it, and so. But I mean, just bring it back to you. So how does this help you now as a social worker, like to understand, like, because you deal with kids, right, or teens, or
yes.
So how does that help you, like, deal with that kind of understanding them and like, understanding yourself? I guess I think to, so this therapy helped you understand yourself, and like I'm just wondering, like, how's that helping you now? And opposed to how you were when you first came out.
That's a good question. There's a lot of things that I went through to find myself again. It's getting some clarity and perspective. I think I'm always working on that. I still get triggered.
Mm-hmm.
However, this time around, thankfully that I'm more aware of it, and I'm able to communicate a little bit clearer to my support system, which is my family.
Right.
Another thing that's helped me, and Judge, I'll get to answer your question in a minute, but one of the things that has also helped me is reconnecting with my spiritual guidance. And everyone can different for everybody, right? But that foundation alone, coming back to, is very, very important for what I do now. In addition to that, I've extended myself to get more training because I wanted to work with veterans. I was ready to go with the veterans, but something drew me here.
Mm-hmm.
And what helped me make my decision was my spiritual base and some of my early on exposure. So I made a decision to come work with with juveniles, right? Under adults, because I didn't feel that I might not have the compassion, the empathy, and I was afraid of that. That was one of the fears that I had coming in. I felt that I had it for a good understanding with adults and veterans, specifically families of veterans and family members of the Navy, of service members, right?
Right.
I connect with them because of all the things that I pushed forward to kind of help myself through. But prior to me, right after I graduated and having a lot of training in EMDR and somatic approaches, I also took a training in trauma resiliency model out of Claremont.
Oh, yeah.
She's Elaine Paris Miller. She runs a program to teach trauma resiliency model, which is a model that now is being embraced by the Department of Defense, the VA, specifically because it's a somatic approach to helping veterans go through their traumas without even really having to talk about trauma.
Right.
It's a somatic approach, and that helped me kind of gain some perspective and work with kids and utilize the skills. It's a scaffolding approach of intervention.
Right.
Helped me that has helped guide me when I have a conversation with a juvenile or a child or any adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was important for me to learn and understand trauma resiliency so that I can help them expand their resiliency. I don't know if you've ever punched one of those bubbles and then you punch them and they come back to you because they have sand at the bottom.
Right.
They come back. As quick as they come back and then they stabilize, that's called resiliency. That's the best way I can describe it to you.
Right.
And some people have a narrow resiliency, others have a wider resiliency. The wider your resiliency is, the better it is that you're able to cope with things and have some tolerance and reconnect and get some stability in your homeostasis of your body. When you have trauma, your resiliency narrows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The great thing about it is with children, they're able to kind of, when they fall, they kind of rebound and get back up. They have that skill. And I think it's important as we grow that you keep them aware of keeping that skill and invigorating that skill throughout their lives.
Yeah.
What keeps me here is that part, people to help in their journey, and only they know where they're going. And it's my job, obviously, to mitigate and help them with their cases, but also have a full understanding of what's really going to be needed in their life so they can really connect and engage, so they can have growth. Because their brain won't stop developing until the age of 25. And the research states that. And things that if we do anything to hurt our bodies, well, it's going to jeopardize that, right? It's going to have that limit in growth.
Right.
Two is, how do I help them with perspective of who their identity is? Right? Beyond fear, what's the long-term outcome? What is it? Relationship? Is it the trauma that gets reinvigorated and revisited? And are they willing to embrace where they're going, in what direction they want to go? Right? A lot of times I notice that there's a lot of love and compassion that's missing in them.
Mm-hmm.
But how do they share that? How do they convey that?
Right.
Some of them is because they're conditioned and they do the negative to draw the attention, and then that gets a ongoing cycle, especially with trauma people that have traumatic brain injuries, right? Those symptoms of traumatic brain injury are very congruent with conduct disorder or dysregulated mood, impulse control, right? Impulsivity. They're very congruent. So I think it's important that when you have someone that has exposure to TBI, that we have to ask the question: have you been exposed to injuries, concussions, blackouts, right? Even at an early age.
Yeah.
And if they haven't, well, have they been exposed to other things like domestic violence? Right? And that's stuff that they have to understand that that's stuff's not their fault.
Yeah.
Validating them, what they're saying, is important because that helps move the conversation forward, right, and build a relationship. I'm here because of that. And then how did I justify coming here? Well, I figured maybe long term, once I'm complete in this field, I still want to help veterans, and I do that now through that nonprofit. Right. Had I gone to work with veterans, how I could do a service. But big picture, I think there's more that needs to be done at the congressional, legal aspects. How do we reinvigorate a program like the Transitional Assistance Program? How do we really create a program that's going to be very supportive as we transition, and when we leave, that it's still there as a support measure until the complete transition happens into the new field. I think that's a big thing that needs to happen. I think in the long-term picture, that's really where I see myself, God willing, if that happens for me, right? To change laws and kind of have insight into programs that can be essential for our condition. And not only them, it's obviously impacts families, wives, the long-term perspective to keep a positive outlook with those that have served in the military, and we should be grateful for that.
Right.
So big picture, that's where I see that maybe as a public servant, It's my long-term objective to go back and help veterans.
Right.
For the time being, I'm doing it through the Blue Star Ranch program. I'm encouraging other service members to engage in an alternative modality that they're not going mainstream with the conventional way of, psychiatrists and doctors. I fully vet the alternative programs where I feel that they can gain some enlightenment, right, towards moving forward in their lives.
Great. Yeah, sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And so there's one thing I also want to talk to you about. Actually, two other things. You said there was a trick that you learned about how to deal with civilians, and, or like how to think about it while that made you understand civilians and not like start snapping at them all the time. Can you go about that trick and let us know about that?
um, I think I'm very grateful of the individual that had the conversation with me. This was several years ago. Just knowing that was an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I came across with my wife, speaking with my wife and how she's been very supportive, and even as a service member, communicating, having a relationship with my spouse, there's two different brains, two different thought processes, two different concepts, two different traditions, cultures. We have so much dynamics, right? And I had to come to terms in respecting that person's opinion, that person's thought process that I had or maybe had and suppressed it, and I wanted to choose a different path. So being attuned to their behaviors, how their bodies exhibiting certain things, certain movements, and if there's, I think the word is attunement. Mm-hmm. I became more attuned, and thankfully through the trauma resiliency program, which that's where some of the training comes in, being attuned to what someone is doing while they're communicating or while they're listening to me, right, is very important. Their facial expressions, that our bodies exhibit so much release of tension or confusion that you can observe through their facial expressions or body language. Mm-hmm. And I think that was very important for me to be able to learn that, and working with different generations and how people react and how people think, and being mindful that that's where they're at, and this is where I'm at. It's not any better. I'm just saying that every brain thinks and processes everything
differently. Yeah.
Observing body language and the behaviors and the tone of someone is also important. So all of those things is what I look at to help me say, well, wait a minute, why am I pushing back on someone that I already know they're being agitated because they're biting nails and their legs are shaking? Right. Learning to just back off and just be, at that point, maybe be more empathetic. Mm-hmm. Encouraging and more, showing more compassion is the word that I'm looking for. Right. But attunement is the right word that I kind of use. Also, another one is we're reflecting. Mm-hmm. So maybe saying something that, or they're attacking someone, but it's really reflective of how they're feeling. Mm-hmm. At that point, is it necessary to show more compassion, right? Validating what they're saying. So that's what it is, being attuned and validating what they're doing. Yeah.
So you pretty much realize that their opinion matters too, then, huh?
Exactly. Embracing change, and their opinion matters, And right. Every survey that you go to, if people don't stick around, it's because they either left a manager because they didn't like the manager or the supervisors, or their opinion didn't matter. Right. Two critical things.
Right. Gotcha. And and this one was just specifically for vets that I think got out prior to 2001, right? You guys you were saying that you weren't entitled to the 9/11 GI Bill once you were in school, right? Because you started school, you said you started your undergrad in 2011, but the 9/11 GI Bill had already kicked in. I think it was like 2010, 2009. So those are specific. The 9/11s, and I didn't know this. I thought it was for everybody. And maybe we can have somebody clarify that later. But you were saying you weren't entitled to the 9/11 one because you got out prior to 2001.
Yeah, I got out like the beginning of January 2001, which was my end of my the 9/11 was 2001 in September.
Right.
So
Right.
there's no not eligible for that. And then when you said that that law went into effect and it was passed, several years later. So yeah, I was not entitled to that. I pretty much utilized my GI Bill and worked through to help me get through school. I think I initiated my program in 2007 for my undergrad and completed it in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Through a private school. But that offered a lot of support to veterans, and it was a veteran-friendly school, meaning that they provided some discounts to attend the school with quality education, and I was also able to solicit all the services that they provided to help me get through some of the classes because it was difficult. It was very challenging for me. Just concentration, focus, a lot of distractions. Kind of would encounter, especially things like
right. Yeah.
But now I'm thankful when I went back to school. There were several veterans that I went to school with, and they were saying how they get the 9/11 benefit of the BAH.
BAH.
For their housing.
Right.
I wish I would have had that.
Right.
Obviously, I wasn't entitled to it, so I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying. But they are those that are coming out. I think that's great. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah.
Because some housing is so difficult, especially with the cost of living now. If you're transitioning to just a regular job, minimum wage job, it's hard. So to have a DOD pay for housing, I think it's a blessing.
100%. 100%. Like I think it's probably the best decision I think the government has made to help veterans in a long time. They've been cutting a lot of veteran benefits and help now, but I think that's probably the one that really helped them out. So I think it was outstanding actually, because they also get like book stipends and supply stipends and stuff like that, and it's really good. And I'm like, wow, yeah. And like I was telling,
share that, the stipends, the semester, they give us like $50 for some supplies, but initially when you're enrolling in school, they do provide some, like a grant per se that covers us like a laptop and additional supplies to get you started in your program. It's just a one-time payment, of course.
Right.
And then they do cover the books and tuition. I went to my master's program because we eligible for the vocational rehab program, VRE, and that's what helped cover those expenses and the program that I attended at USC.
Nice.
That's in social work.
Nice. And that's and that was a different program from the GI Bill. I apologize, I didn't hear what you said on what the name of the program was.
It's a vocational rehab and education.
Oh, okay.
So that's what, because I was having difficulties obviously transitioning with my employment. My degree was in business, and I couldn't do that anymore. So I needed to transition the field that I'm in now, and justifying the outlook of employment and completing a program that I had to kind of convey to the VA, and the vocational rehab program was what the benefit that I had to utilize, because at that point I had already utilized all of my
GI Bill.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. Sweet. I think yeah, I think we've talked about everything. Oh, I think the no, we did talk about you going back and starting at a lower wage job, right? So we talked about that and how difficult that was. Um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's garage for years, man, and not a great
yeah,
environment.
right,
It was humbling. Like I went from defending my country to living in a garage. Thank God, I mean, damn near homeless.
right.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, pretty much. Yeah, no, I know exactly how you feel. Um, it's it's not fun, you know. And I think I was talking to somebody recently as well. I was like, man, I was making crap money as a E4 and you know the army, but like
And one thing people don't understand is we're working 24/7. Is that we're not
right,
getting paid an hourly wage
right,
as an E4, yeah. Like
right,
your work day, you still have to stand watches, and if there's special events going on with training,
right,
again, there's limitations there, right? Or
right,
standing watches after work.
yeah,
There's, I wish they paid us hourly. That'd be great.
right.
Yeah, so,
Right, they paid us hourly, then they might let us off. Uh, Instead of
yes,
having us sweep the floors like 20 times before we go home. You know, they'd be like, oh, hourly wages? Oh, no, we ain't got jack to do, guys. Go home. Time to go.
the concept.
Right. You guys go ahead and take a 2 hour lunch today. We'll be okay. Yeah. Right. Um, so, yeah, so that'd be funny.
I do want to kind of, on this note, is it's important to recognize the fact that the brotherhoods that we bond with certain members, everybody's going to have a clique of a certain amount of people that you connected with, and you'll communicate with them for the rest of your lives. That
Right.
like one of my best friends from my first command from Puerto Rico, he was in the whole events that happened. I was still connected with him. I had my friend and I sent a couple of care packages, try and get everything before they were going to start doing shutdowns and they can't get stuff and supplies there. But the brotherhood and we care for each other. I think that's something that every service member can attest to.
Right. Right.
People that we want to stay connected to for the rest of our lives, and
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have those friendships.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely a lifelong bond that is forged when you're in there doing absolutely dumb stuff with a bunch of great people. So, you know, when you're like sitting there in the middle of a rain or something, trying to set up a tent or do something, and you're like, gosh, dang it. Why is everybody else inside? We could be doing it, you know, but you're there doing stupidness. So definitely lifelong bonds that are forged, and that's like a really good thing. So it's good. But Jack, we've been at this for about an hour and 20 now. Is there anything that you'd like to just say? Anything you thought of once we were in there that you didn't mention that you'd like to mention? Just any final thoughts?
I think it's everyone has their own journey.
Uh
The journey, clearly for me, was long serving. It did take me a long time, but then coming back and gaining some perspective and insight with academics and learning more about what we're exposed to and how we interpret all of that as we go back to civilian life, or even if we're staying in.
Right.
Um, I think it's something that we should have an awareness of throughout our lives. Um, Recognizing what triggers, learning what triggers are, number one, right?
Right.
Learning when we don't have the resiliency to um, sustain ourselves.
Right.
It's it's imperative that we ask for help. Whether we say, "Hey, I need help," or whether you say, "Hey, how are you dealing with this?" And asking questions to help us have the understanding to know that we're not alone. That a lot of us experience these similar um, um, feelings or sentiments and or lack of empathy or empathy, or we're in need of compassion, we need
Right.
to that we establish a support system and that we're free to explore that. To, sometimes you have fears. It's okay to have fears, right? It's okay to be uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, I think we gain so much more, so that we can have a sustainable life, and a joyous life. I think finding that inner joy, and reflecting back on our childhood joy
Mm-hmm.
is something that we should consider,
Mm-hmm.
um, to help us navigate and reconnect with that. I'm
Right.
blessed that opportunity, and I'll be honest with you, there's some times where I question my decisions in the service or joining the service, but now I'm able to say we feel strong about and have the conviction to say I'm a proud veteran. I did seek in my own way the assistance so that I can have my identity and be comfortable in my own skin. Now. It's hard. I know I have to manage it throughout my life, because there is no perfect, but there is ways that we can manage it.
Right.
I think testimonials are good. Having a foundation in whether it's spiritual or whether it's whatever it is that makes you brings you to a spiritual environment or a calm environment.
Right.
And it's just growth and learning from life, whether others' experiences, conversations, and really being in the moment of,
Right.
of that of whatever it is you're experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Um, what else would I like? I mean, I'm blessed, and I thank God that we're here. I'm glad you gave me the platform to share
Ah, thank you.
what I was able to kind of go through.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it opens awareness to other veterans,
Right.
whether it's through the DA, whether it's through their own personal exploration, whether it's friends and families, the support system that they have. Whatever it is, I just hope that we all take advantage of it and really do some inner stuff and explore within ourselves after we leave.
Yeah.
And I thank every veteran that served in all ways, because they're all heroes.
Right. I agree. This one's a jab at my friend's little brother who went into the Marines. Even you water purification guys,
Yes, yes.
you were our heroes in Iraq. Don't worry about it.
That's right. That's right. They always serve a purpose while you're there.
Right? Yeah. So, no, it's definitely yeah, I think, I think we went over a lot of good stuff, and I appreciate your time. I know we took a while getting linking up, it's all good. It happens.
Yes.
And, I appreciate, it's well worth it, I think, for the information that you got, and, I thank you for sharing your story and, saying how you went for 12 years of being angry and not knowing what was going on, and to finally figuring it out, and now being happy, job you love, right, and everything else. Yeah. So, and for me, that goes to show, just not just me, but like the listeners and everything else, right? That it's not gonna happen right away. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen right away, but it doesn't have to happen right away, and it might take a while. It might take a few years, right? In your case, like 12, 13, right? But you're gonna get there, right? And it wasn't like you couldn't function for those 13 years, 12 years. You were just angry, right? So, and you're
Any kind of emotion. That's not cool. That wasn't life.
right. Right. Yeah. Right. It was essentially what you learned in the military, right? You bottle up that emotion and you don't let it out. So it's, and of course, once you have a wife and kids, you need to have some kind of emotion, right? Or you're gonna raise a bunch of kids that are also traumatized, right, from the get go. So, um, so yeah, so like to help out the family thing, just
Uh, in closing, I think it's important. This morning I was driving to work and I was listening to Christian music, and the song was God's not done with you yet.
Right.
God's not done with you. There's so much more He wants to show me. Right. When I got to work, before I even walked into the building, I called my house and I called my wife and I asked my wife, "Can I speak with Enzo?" With my son, and I shared that with him, and give us some perspective on what he's expected to do, and just knowing that God is still with him and he's still going to show him so much more. It was so important for me to share that with him at that moment. That again, going back to what I said, being in the moment,
Right.
and I just want to let that opportunity escape me.
Right.
Because I felt that it was important that my son knew that God wants him to have more. He wants him to do more, to learn more.
Right.
And again, that's my personal journey. That's how we're raising our children, with that joy of spirituality and the foundation.
Right.
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but again, being in the moment. Then I stop and connect. That's what I do.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's excellent. It, speaks to what I was actually saying. So, it's not like, so you're definitely adding to what I was saying, and in a great way, right? And for me, it's like, I also, I'm Catholic as well. I don't know if you're Catholic, you might Christian, whichever, right? But like, we go to the same God, right? So just in different ways. There's other people out there that have their own different gods, right? Or they either have one more or they have multiple. I don't care which God you pray to, right? I think that song could be for everybody, right? Your God is not done with you yet, right? So, so I think it's great, and I think it's right. Like, just keep going, right? There's more to be. There's more that you need to give, or you need to be done. All right, you can do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Jack, thanks, man. I appreciate your time. I'm gonna go ahead and close off now. So I'd like to thank you, and to the listeners, thank you guys as well. Like I've been saying, welcome back every week. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this to help us out. And also, if you could thumbs up and hit the notifications. And then also the one other thing that I don't say in the closing video that I have on here is, if you have any ideas of what you want to hear about, put it in the comments, and I will try to find an expert or somebody knowledgeable on that topic to speak to. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And have a good one. Thanks, Jack. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Left Seat, Right Seat. If you liked what you heard, just go ahead, hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. And come back next week for another episode. And also follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all your other podcast venues. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you again later. Bye.
See ya.